Welcome back to CBS This Morning. Facebook and other social media companies are under growing pressure from the Biden administration to stop the spread of vaccine misinformation. We spoke exclusively with Facebook CEO and co-founder, that's Mark Zuckerberg, about the platform's efforts to handle this issue and what is Facebook doing to protect its own employees amid this pandemic. Facebook just announced last week you guys were planning to go back into the office in October. And now you've just delayed it till January 2022. Tell us why.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I think the numbers that we're seeing around this Delta variant with COVID are pretty concerning, right? And they're growing. And it just underscores, I think, the importance of everyone getting vaccinated to help get this under control.
Will you lose your job if you're not vaccinated?
Well, we're going to allow people to work remotely. I also think that there are some health exemptions. But overall, we want to make sure that our employee population, especially the people who are in the office, in the open floor plan that we have, are both safe themselves and contributing to a safe community.
And how are you guys, Mark, going to manage it? Because, we've seen the honor system does not work.
I think that this is an important question. And within our employee base, we do require that our employees are honest with us. If they lie to the company about any number of things, then that can cause serious issues, and we terminate people for that. But I don't know that there's any bulletproof solution to this.
I want to talk to you about COVID misinformation on your platform. That's a really big topic these days. I want to know specifically what you and your team are doing to fight against it.
Sure. This is a very important topic, and Facebook is taking, I think it's been an unprecedented effort to help encourage people to get vaccinated, to promote authoritative information about COVID and the vaccines, and to fight and take down misinformation. So, millions of people have taken their first step to getting their vaccine through a vaccine finder tool that we've built. At the top of Facebook and Instagram, we've put, over the last year, basically links to this coronavirus information hub, sharing authoritative information from government officials as well as trusted community leaders. Billions of people have visited it. In terms of fighting misinformation, we've taken down more than 18 million pieces of misinformation.
The numbers you talk about are good. I think everybody agrees that Facebook has done a lot to combat misinformation, but we still don't know how much misinformation has been shared on your platform, how many people have viewed it, how many people have acted upon that. Facebook seems very reluctant to share those numbers. How come?
Well, I think to some degree there are also different definitions that people have over what misinformation is. Where a lot of the stuff that's actually the hardest for us to really address is not what I would call misinformation, but instead another category that I would call hesitancy. When you were first thinking about getting your vaccine, you probably had questions around, which vaccine is the most effective for you and your family. And some of these times when people ask these questions, or is this safe yet? Should I wait a while? That's not misinformation, but it's certainly contributing to an environment where people are asking questions about the safety of vaccines. I don't think we should ban it. But I do think that that's a big part of the discourse at this point, and certainly causes people to ask questions about whether they want to get vaccinated. So from a public health perspective, it may not be the most positive thing.
I almost think, though, Mark, it's more than hesitancy discourse. There have been some things that are just blatantly not true. Recent studies by Northwestern and Harvard say those who are most reliant on Facebook for information have substantially lower vaccination rates than those who rely on other sources. Does that surprise you?
There are people who share misinformation, and that's why I said that we took down and have taken down more than 18 million pieces of harmful misinformation about this. So, if you look around the world in different countries, right, different countries I think are doing better and worse on getting their citizens vaccinated. And, the U.S., I think, has a specific issue on this. People use Facebook and social media all across the world. So if this were primarily a question about social media, then I think you would see that being the effect in all of these countries where people use it. But I think that there's something that's unique in our ecosystem here, whether it's some of the political leaders or some of the media figures, that I think is different than what we're seeing across a lot of Europe or across a lot of other countries that are leading to higher levels of this. So I don't think pinning this on social media primarily is accurate.
Now, since our interview with Mark Zuckerberg, Facebook released new numbers on misinformation in its second quarter Community Standards Enforcement Report. Now, they now say more than 20 million pieces of COVID-19 misinformation have been removed since the start of this pandemic through June. In our next hour, we'll talk to Mark Zuckerberg. He will show us how virtual reality could transform the way we work remotely.
Is that a virtual you, Gayle?
That's a virtual me and a virtual Mark, which is why he agreed to do this interview, by the way. I give him credit for saying, look, I want to talk about this. You can talk about anything, and, I will answer the questions as best as I can. But he didn't sit down to talk about misinformation, but it is still an issue.
And you know what? They're kind of related, because the virtual office may be what we go to if misinformation on vaccines means the virus continues to spread.
Well, just that study, Tony, from Harvard and Northwestern, that's
very interesting.
I think that's very interesting that the people who rely on Facebook are less vaccinated than other people, and it's a very small group of people that are putting out the misinformation. But it's getting out, and I think it's frustrating that Facebook doesn't really give the numbers on that. And they're such a huge company. They're so talented. They're so smart. It seems like we could get that number.
It is also a very old problem, right? The misinformation can travel around the world by the time truth puts on its pants.
Right.
Yes.